everyone, myself Swati Jevan Kokate from Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School. Today we are going to continue again with history interesting lesson, that is lesson number 5, rulers and buildings. In this lesson we have seen how the geometrical skills or the architectural skills were developed in those days. So we have seen many of the constructions. Then we are going to see again how it was widely believed that the rules of the kings, okay, were used in a age of plenty when the heavens would not withhold the rain. Means at the same time making precious water available to the people was also an important task. In that we had seen one was for the king's purpose and other many of the things were also built for the people or the public, that is water facilities and all. So we will discuss in now detail. Let us go to the lesson and see this Sultan Iltutmish. Okay, here we are going to see that here Sultan Iltutmish won universal respect. Okay, means for what purpose? He constructed a large reservoir just outside Delhi-e-Kuna. It was called as Hauji Sultani or the King's Reservoir, and you can find it is in the map 1 in chapter 3. Okay, and it was built very big and it was used for ordinary people. Sometimes these tanks and reservoirs were part of the temple or mosque. As you can see here, the Harmandir Sahib who built this temple, golden temple with holy Sarovar or the tank in Amritsar. Okay. So, or one more thing also, note the small tank in the Jami Masjid in figure 7. Why were the temples targeted? Means whenever, what this means, whenever some ruler wanted to attack on the other ruler or the other king, why the temples? First he came in the places and he used to just whatever destruct all the temples and also take all the heavy precious or whatever ornaments were on the god. He was used to just take it, because kings built temples to demonstrate their devotion to God, their power and wealth. So it was not surprising that they attacked first on the temples or the kingdoms when they and these buildings. In the early 9th century, when the Pandyan king Srimara Srivallabh invaded Sri Lanka and defeated the king Senavan, this is name of that king, during 1831 to 1851, the Buddhist monk and the chronicler Dhammakirti noted that he removed all the valuables of the statue of the Buddha made entirely of gold in Jewel Palace. So like this they did, and the golden images in the various monasteries all days he seized. So the blow of the pride, that is of the Sinhasal ruler, had to avenge, and the next was the Sinhasal ruler, that is Sena II, ordered his general to invade Madurai. So he ordered the general to invade, to capture or have a attack on this and the capital of the Pandyas. So the Buddhist chronicles noted that the expeditions made a special effort to find the resort of the gold statues of the Buddha. So you can see here, similarly the early 11th century, when the Chola king Rajendra I built a Shiv temple in this capital, he filled it with prized statues, okay, and also seized from defeated rulers. An incomplete list included a sun pedestal of Chalukyas, Ganesha statues and also of several Durga, Nandi statues from eastern Chalukyas, the images of Bhairava or Shiva and the Bhairavi from the Kalingas in the Orissa, and the Kali statue from the Palas of Bengal. So all these, like many of the names are given here during 11th century. So here we can see that Char Bagh means what, like here the place is there and you can see 4 baghs or Char Bagh from the side, Char hisso mein, like 4 sides it has, so 4 sided garden. Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni was a contemporary of Rajendra I. During his campaign in the subcontinent, he attacked on the temples and defeated kings, and he looted their wealth and idols, means whatever was in temple, everything he looted it. Sultan Muhammad was not a very important ruler at that time, but by destroying the temples, especially one of the Somnath temple, he tried to win credit as a great hero of Islam. So in the political culture of Middle Ages, most rulers displayed their political might or their military success by attacking and looting the other places, and also defeated the rulers. So now we are going to see gardens, tombs and forts. Under the Mughals, architecture became very complex, means very creative also we can say. So after that Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir and especially Shah Jahan, personally they had their interest in literature, art, architecture. Okay. So in his autobiography, Babur described his interest in planning and laying out formal gardens which were in rectangular walled enclosures, and it divided into 4 quarters by artificial channels, like see here 4 parts you can see, isn't it? So this is a channel in between, like this he made the different gardens like Char Bagh we can call it. These gardens were called Char Bagh, 4 gardens, because of their symmetrical division into quarters. Beginning with Akbar, some of the most beautiful Char Bagh were constructed by Jahangir, Shah Jahan in Kashmir and Agra and Delhi. So you can see in figure 9. There were several important architectural innovations during Akbar's rule. For inscriptions or for the this he made very beautiful. For the inspiration, Akbar's architect turned to the tombs of his Central Asian ancestors, which is I told you na, in the for the ancestors, for the remembrance of the ancestors. Taimur, the central towering dome, this dome you can see, this thing is called dome, okay, and the tall gateway or the Pishtak became important as the important aspect for the Mughal. What is Pishtak? The tall gateway, okay, this you can see a very tall gateway. Pishtak means a very tall gateway. So you can see in figure 12 the throne balcony in the Diwani Am in Delhi, completed in 1648. Okay. So this first visible in Humayun's tomb, this was first done in Humayun's tomb. The tomb was placed in the center of huge formal Char Bagh and built in the tradition, and it was known as 8 Paradise or Hasht Bishti, a central hall which is surrounded by 8 rooms, and the building was constructed with red sandstone edged with white marble. So this is the construction's description. It was during Shah Jahan's rule or reign that the different elements of Mughal architecture were fused together in a harmonious way. During his witness or during his rule, a huge amount of construction activity, especially it was in Agra and Delhi, and the ceremonial hall of public and private audience, that is Diwan-e-Khas and Diwan-e-Aam, were carefully planned, placed with a large courtyard. These courts were also described as Chihil Sutan for 40 pillared halls. So it had 40 pillars, and Diwan-e-Khas means only the courts or the courtiers were there, and Diwan-e-Aam means where the public was also called to discuss their problems. Shah Jahan's audience hall was especially constructed to resemble a mosque, and the pedestal on which the throne was placed was described as Qibla. As I told you, Qibla means from where they offer their prayer, Muslims. Since everybody faced to this direction, they also believed that this architecture is as a god or as a mosque or temple. The connection between royal justice and the imperial court was emphasized by Shah Jahan in his newly constructed court in the Red Fort at Delhi. Now, wherever you have seen Red Fort of Delhi on 15th August, isn't it, or 26th January also. So, behind the emperor's throne were a series of Pitradura inlays that they depicted the legendary Greek god Orpheus playing the lute. Here Pitradura means colored hard stones placed in depressions carved into marbles and stones, creating beautiful ornate patterns. So, these beautiful stones, color stones were put as a design. Instead of giving colors, the stones were put. So, these constructions audience, they aimed at communicate the king's justice, would treat the high and the low as equal, creating a world where all could live together in a harmony. In the early years of the reigns of Shah Jahan's capital was at Agra. Okay. So, a city where the nobility was constructed their homes on the banks of river Yamuna. It was a set of the midst of formal gardens. So many of the gardens were constructed and the Char Bagh was the format. The Char Bagh garden also had a variation that historians described as the river front of the garden, from where we can see the river view. In this dwelling was not located in the middle of the Char Bagh, but at its edge and close to the bank of the river. Okay. Shah Jahan adapted the riverfront garden in the layout of this Taj Mahal and the grandest architectural accomplished of this time. So, here the white marble mausoleum was placed as on the terrace by the edge of the river and the garden was to its south. So, Shah Jahan, you can see here, completed in 1643, a beautiful place. You can see the construction here, it is Taj Mahal and the full here this one Yamuna river is flowing. Here also the architectural part or the we can say they appear as a crowded place. See what thing they have to show here. This was a very crowded place, many of the people lived there, but the people were allowed to live very far from that place. Okay. And this architectural form as a mean to control the access means they had to have the control and the noble had to in the new city of Shahjahanabad they had constructed in Delhi the imperial or the place commanded the river front. Only special favored nobles like the eldest son Dara Shukha were given access to the river, means they were only allowed, as I told you, to go to the places. All others had to construct their homes very far away from the city, from the river Yamuna. So, here we in this figure what they have shown, just so much densely populated the place was, but then too they had to live far from the place where the king had constructed these things. Next one we are going to see region and the empire. So, under this we are going to see a construction activity which was increased between the 8th and 18th century. There was also a considerable sharing of ideas across these regions, and the traditions of one region were adopted by other. Like one we can say in Vijayanagar, for example, the elephant stables of the rulers were strongly influenced by the style of architecture found in the adjoining Sultanate of Bijapur and Golconda. So what is stables? Stables means what, children? The place or the building for the livestock. Livestock means what? The animals which are helping the or like horses, elephants, which have a major part in the work. Okay. So without them also some work is not possible, like transportation and all. So this stable is a building for livestock, that is horses, elephants, etc. So we have seen that in Vijayanagar the elephant stables of the rulers were strongly influenced by the style of architecture found in the adjoining Sultanate of Bijapur and Golconda. In Vrindavan near Mathura temple were constructed in architectural style, and that were very similar to the Mughal places of Fatehpur Sikri. So what they did, they also followed some of the styles whichever were good, or whichever they were impressed by, or whichever they felt attractive. The creation of the large empire brought different regions under their rule, and it helped in the cross fertilization of artistic forms and the architectural style. Here cross fertilization means not our fertilizers, children. Here means they took the ideas of each other in the artistic forms and also in the architectural style. Mughal rulers were particularly skilled. They were skilled in adapting regional architecture styles in the construction of their own buildings. For example, now we will see in Bengal, the local rulers had developed a roof that was designed or to resemble a thatched hut. So you can see a thatched hut, okay, like hut the design is, okay, like this, see here. The Mughal liked this Bangla dome so much that they used in their architecture. So this also means was liked by them, and this like this thatched hut, they were impressed and they found it. The impact of other region was also evident. In Akbar's capital at Fatehpur Sikri, many of the buildings show the influence of the architectural style of Gujarat and Malwa. So if they would like the architecture of each other places, they used to follow the same in some of their architectures. So even though the authority of the Mughal rulers waned in the 18th century, the architectural style developed under their patronage were constantly used and adapted by the rulers whenever they tried to establish their kingdoms. So we can see, even though the authority of the Mughals was waned during this time, but the architectural style and it was developed during this patronage. Okay, what is patronage? Or the workers or the help, we can say, were constantly used by the and adapted by the rulers whenever they tried to establish their own kingdom. So in figure 17, here you can see decorated pillars. Okay, these are the pillars. Are they plain, children? No. So these pillars, they are decorated struts holding the extension of the roof in Jodhabai Palace in Fatehpur Sikri. So they are having that hold or that balance in Fatehpur Sikri. This follows architectural tradition of the Gujarat region. Also we can see churches that touched the skies. See, at that time only ground floor or it was there, isn't it? Very, we can see here. So the churches were there which touched the skies, and from the 12th century onwards, attempts began in France to build churches that were taller and also lighter than earlier buildings. This architectural style was known as Gothic, and which was distinguished by high pointed arcs. See, you can see high pointed arcs are there here, isn't it? Here all you can see high pointed arcs. Then this was use of a stained glass. So there was also use of stained glass, often painted with scenes. So there was some drawing, and what was it? From the Bible, and the flying buttresses, tall spires and the bell towers which were visible on the distance. Fine. And they were added to the church. All you can see here, glasses were put and all the things were written on it. One of the best known example of this architectural style is the church of Notre Dame in Paris, which was constructed through several decades in the 12th and 13th century. So here you can it is shown the picture of the church, and this example they have shown of this Notre Dame in Paris church, which was constructed through several decades, okay, in the 12th and 13th century. So children, till here we have seen that how the rulers or the means whatever different types of architecture was there again, isn't it? So what were the differences, or what were the different things, and how this came into very attractive way, we can say, okay. In each of the states also we have seen. So we have seen this tomb of Humayun constructed between 1562 and 1571. Can you see the water channels? So here see, water channels are there, isn't it? Here also water channels of Charbagh we had seen. Then let us have a recapitulate the lesson, children. Here from the first I am going to explain you, okay. This is figure 8 of Temple of Amritsar. We are going to see here different things. Again we are going to recapitulate the lesson for your remembrance purpose. We have seen engineering skills and all. So in the first we have seen Qutub Minar, okay, this how 5-story building it is, or 5-story constructions, means it has 5 we can say stories, and the band in the inscription you see it is in the first, and it is of different red color stones. Over the years it was damaged by lightning, okay. Lightning means what, due to natural disasters like earthquake and all, it was little destroyed, but later on it was repaired by Alauddin Khalji, Muhammad Tughlaq, Firuz Shah Tughlaq and also Ibrahim Lodi. Then we have seen the engineering skills and constructions. We have seen what is superstructure. Superstructure is a part of a building above the ground floor. So we have seen that how these beams, or how the what is Corbel technique, and how it was used in the construction for the beautiful purpose, or to be very strong beams. Here in section or in the figure 2a, screen in the Quwat al-Islam Mosque, Delhi. It was during late 12th century, and this is a figure of Corbel technique which was used and constructed during this screen. Then we have seen the temple construction of early 12th century, early 11th century. We have seen the this temple, and how beautiful it was, how it was the center place for, and how these kings also believed themselves as God. Then we have seen in figure 4 Rajarajeshwara temple also, and how it was the tallest shikhara amongst the temples at that time. and how they had a inclined path, okay, and from right from 4 kilometers away from this temple, and they had to do everything manually at that time, and afterward that inclined path was dismantled, means it was removed. Then we have seen the technologies, okay. The weight of the superstructure was on the carried by these arches, and it was known as arcuate. Also in the figure 2 we have seen that there was a demand or increasingly used, what was used? Limestone cement for the, which was of very good quality, and the stones, small chips also were hardened to concrete, and it was for a not destroyed for the long time. Then we have seen buildings, temples, mosques and tanks for the people also, for the public facilities also they were built. Then we have seen this Qibla, okay, why they were focusing on the directions, because they also wanted to show their power, or they themselves wanted to show themselves as a God or as a Allah. Then we have seen this temple, okay, how these reservoirs and were focused on, and this is the in figure 8 Harmandir Sahib with the Holy Sarovar tank in Amritsar. We have seen this. Obviously how the temples were targeted, why and who had targeted on the temples, who defeated whom and who invaded, or the temples how they were destroyed by the kings who attacked on the other rulers or the kings, we have seen here. Then we have gone through gardens, tombs and forts, means during the Mughals the architecture became more complex or more interesting during Humayun, Akbar and all these reigns. This Charbagh we have seen, isn't it, in figure 10 also we are going to see. In figure 11 the tomb of Humayun, constructed between 1562 to 1571, we have seen this beautiful place also. Then the architecture, how this Humayun's tomb was visible and all these things, and how it was given the name like 8 paradise, because it was surrounded by 8 rooms, okay. Then also we have seen this one of the 7 wonders of the world, that is Taj Mahal in Agra, and the white marble was used for it. How the people were not, or the public was not allowed to live or build the constructions or build their houses nearby this house. Then we have seen the region and the empire, how the construction activities were increasing day by day, and we have seen this, they wanted to just what we can say implement the good things, or whatever the things were liked by each of the constructions, they used to just follow the things and they used to make the things available there. With this we have completed the lesson. Children, go to the lesson, go through the lessons also, what points I have told you, write down once again and read the lesson. Thank you.